honoring to have the right amount of time to say what we want to say, so I really appreciate that. So thank you very much, board, and other elected officials for your service to the community. I know that it requires many hours of your time, and I'm grateful for your service. I'm here this evening to express my serious concern over the proposed overlay ordinance. My concerns are substantive as relate both to content, intent, and potential consequences of the overlay district, as well as the process by which we have arrived at this moment in our community's life. First, I would like to express my concern and dissatisfaction with the process that has been utilized to this point. I myself and others I know in town only really heard about this overlay district proposal a matter of weeks ago, yet I do understand from speaking directly with town council leadership that others on the town council and other officials have been discussing this proposal with developers for months. Anything this large-scale commercial with the potential to so seriously alter our community should have been brought to light sooner than it has, and in more of a splashy way. Like, I think just finding out about it in the Valley Breeze is kind of tricky because these meetings come up really quickly, and if I was sick the first time we met, but I listened to the town council meeting because it meant a lot to me, but I know other people who are on vacation this week, so they just missed this meeting entirely, and that's a really fast pace to have to move something along when it's something that's potentially consequential to our community. So the community has barely had a moment to digest the complex legalese, and already it seems that you might be ready to vote this evening, and that feels inappropriate to me. And I know others, I've heard them say it too. I'm asking you to please slow down and listen earnestly to the concerns of the community. I heard some creative ideas tonight, and we are creative, intelligent people in this community. We probably could come up with a better solution that could probably be a win-win for the landowners and the community. And there are ethical principles in planning that state that residents should be involved in these kinds of consequential projects from the beginning of them. So if the process included time for residents to constructively discuss our wishes and values, devoid of a sense of urgency around an up or down vote, that would be more appropriate. We already have the feeling that you may want to vote in a predetermined way, and that then makes us feel like everything we're saying actually doesn't matter. So from the point of view of respect for the community, we would really appreciate if you listen to what we're saying. I just want to name a couple principles in ethics around community planning. And in my role as a public health evaluator, we work with communities on engaging residents to understand about what's happening in their own community, because the more efficacy that people feel, they're healthier, they're happier, they're less depressed, there's less violence in communities when people actually feel like they have a say in their own determination. So first, and this is according to the AICP, the American Institute of Certified Planners, and their ethics guidelines. First, recognize the rights of citizens to participate in planning decisions. Second, strive to give citizens, including those who lack formal organization or influence, full, clear, and accurate information. And that really gets to what my neighbor and friend Mike Kayla was saying about the map. That was not full, clear, and accurate information that we could actually see what this overlay district looked like. So give us the full, clear, and accurate information and an opportunity to have a meaningful role in the development of the plans and the programs. And ensure that reports, records, and any other non-confidential information which is or will be available to decision makers is made available to us, the public, in a convenient format and sufficiently in advance of any decision. And another one is pay special attention to the interrelatedness of decisions and the long-range consequences of present actions. So 2 Mondays ago was the first hearing. Community members barely had time to learn about the fact of this ordinance, let alone digest its content. And there was already a process set in place to potentially approve the ordinance. I'm going to move along in my letter. So as I already mentioned, I did listen to the YouTube recording, and I did hear a resident bring up issues around transparency and ethics. And I did notice that several people on the planning board we're defensive about that, and I can understand because sometimes it's how you say something that hits you the wrong way. But I echo the same sentiment about transparency. When something of this magnitude that could really potentially change the nature of our community and have all of the potentially really negative effects that have already been described by concerned residents, we need to know what is happening around this planning. For example, the different versions of the ordinance, are those available online? Are they dated with a footer that says when they were updated so that we can compare the various versions? Because obviously the people here really care about what's going on, and if we can't follow the progress of it, and most of us are not lawyers, and we have full-time jobs and we're raising families, so we don't have the time to look up all of this stuff. Finally, did anyone on the town council seek expert advice from any independent professionals from the environmental science realms? Certainly, we know the developer has provided some amounts of information about the proposed overlay district, but much of what you hear is crafted in a way to allay our concerns. But as stewards of our community and of its natural resources, including town character, safe groundwater, drainage, and flooding concerns, have you received opinions of independent science folk in Rhode Island who could advise you on what might happen? And I can say about the House bill that's being heard on Thursday that a person who is an expert who's quickly becoming an expert in this whole solar race to the communities, did tell me, it's Scott Millar from Grow Smart, Rhode Island, and he did say that the way it's proposed in the bill would be applicable to what's being proposed here in North Smithfield. So in sum, North Smithfield is not the only community in Rhode Island facing this current environmental and cultural crisis. Other communities like ours have mobilized and are sharing resources and information. The residents must meaningfully and satisfactorily be engaged in this decision-making process. Our elected and appointed officials must use standards of transparency and collaboration with the community that exceed the bare minimum if there is to be a sense of trust between the community and its decision makers. And I heard what Mr. Kravitz said about we'll have to trust the planning board. And I do think that if we're not feeling trust already, it is hard to put trust in our planning board if they're not doing their due diligence. And I'm not saying that they aren't, but I'm saying if we're talking about trust, it needs to be established and maintained. Please remember that you serve our entire community, not the financial interests of a small number of individuals from inside and outside of the community who stand to gain as our land and natural and cultural resources may become degraded now and for future generations. Please don't do these things as my representative. Thank you for your time and attention to the residents' input. We are counting on you to do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Carol Ayala.
Carol Ayala, 110 Love Road, and thank you for letting me speak again. Since the last meeting, I've had a lot more time to study the map of the proposed overlay district and the area that it encompasses. And I have to say that it's just too vast a region to sacrifice for solar installations. And it's not just the 200 forested acres that they're currently describing, but the additional large acreage north of Greenville Road that could be involved over time. I'm sure this will grow slowly as they start to install different fields. It's just such a vast region overall. And there's so many residential areas involved in that district, as well as 2 conservation properties within the district. The 42-acre Village Way property is a conservation area. And the 69-acre Cedar Swamp property is a conservation area. Having these areas bordered by or semi-surrounded by solar installations, to me is like putting a nature area in the middle of an industrial site. Not to mention the experiences of residents that are living nearby these arrays. As I mentioned last time, I'm supportive of solar on appropriate sites such as landfills, contaminated zones, unused industrial areas, rooftops, of course. However, squandering these vast woodland areas just is not acceptable. Having said that, of course, I understand that landowners have rights. And if they're interested in solar on their property, they should work within our existing regulations, and if appropriate, seek a variance, special use permit. And not only would that adhere to our current regulations, but it would also allow abutters to have a say in the process. So basically, I'm saying once again, a parcel by parcel basis is the way solar should be handled in this town. What it boils down to for me is that the developer should not be able to come into town, rewrite our carefully crafted zoning and ordinance regulations, enabling them to make vast amounts of money while we have to live with the consequences. We should be in charge of the way the community evolves over time, not a developer controlling how it will go. I would say that if this developer's district concept is approved, it's equivalent to that old saying of letting the tail wag the dog. I just don't believe that we should allow a developer to take charge of our town's development. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Richards.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Paul Richards. I reside on Iron Mine Hill Road in a part of the property that was a development of 7 houses built on an abandoned sand and gravel pit, which ironically would probably be the perfect site for a solar farm. But right now, I guess I and my neighbors would not entertain a proposal to raise our houses and have a solar farm built there. As you well know, Iron Mine is a very narrow road and twisted and of different gradations. And I've lived there for over 30 years, and the traffic has increased considerably because of new residential development that has occurred all along that road and over those 30 years. And I happen to like trees, and I've got more to like now than ever before, because statistics have shown that New England has more forest land, has double the forest land now than during revolutionary times. And that's because of the abandonment of farms throughout the centuries. Now the thing is that if we had a choice between cutting down trees for a solar farm or cutting down trees to have 75 more residences, houses there, which would also have more wells, more traffic, I would prefer a solar farm. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's everybody. Before we close the public hearing, did anybody, did you want to add an amendment to the existing law?
Mr. President, I have a lot of questions I would like to pose to the developers, if you would indulge me.
You can, well, I'm going to close the public. What?
Can I have 2 minutes?
No, you already spoke, Mike. Everybody already spoke. Your name's on the list, you had your truck.
I spoke 2 minutes, you can have my other 2 minutes.
I already said from the beginning, I'm not doing that. I said, I'm not going to stop, I'm not going to be petty and have everybody give away their minutes. But at the same time, I'm going to let people speak, and say whatever they have to say. I didn't hold anybody to a clock. There's no 2 minutes to give away. And besides, how can you do that? You already spoke.
But you held me to a clock because you said you're speaking too long.
I asked you to move it along.
You did say you're speaking too long and you're done. I'm
Hold
only
on.
asking for 2 minutes to signal.
I'll give you 2 minutes. You know what? I did say that I would give everybody that's on this list an opportunity for a 2-minute rebuttal. I did say that. I apologize. So go ahead.
We have a lot of concerned residents. What's the rush that we got to resolve this tonight? There's a lot of issues, financial, environmental. We still don't even know the size of the project. Numbers are being thrown around. They went from 40 megawatt to 60. What we're going to do is focus. There's so many things happening this week. State of Rhode Island, Thursday meeting on the House bill. May 22nd, Exeter is going through the same process with the developer. You could learn a lot by waiting until May 22nd to figure out what's going on. Because you're going to see it on the table, whether it's good or bad, that the developer has gone from a large overlay type district down to 15 lots. And that's a big change. And I think that's what some people are saying. Is there any way that you can focus on a smaller footprint with a limited number of lots instead of covering a big solar array district? So if you waited till May 22nd, you're going to learn. Is that a feasible solution? And I think it is. And we should be following, working with Exeter to solve the problem. And it can be done. And then June 4th, it goes to their town council. So the bottom line is, what is the rush to close everything and shut it down and say, you know, we're rushing to grab the money and run? I think the people in the audience are saying, why don't we just do our homework, get more information from our finance director as to how much money is changing hands, what's the minimum, you know, resolve that issue, resolve the decommissioning, resolve any other open issues, the issue with the review of the comprehensive plan. These are all open issues. Why can't we resolve them before we're rushing to take a vote? I would rather see you, instead of trying to accept the project tonight, I would rather give the audience a little more time, schedule another meeting, and try to resolve these issues in the interim so that we feel more comfortable, there's more transparency. And I think that's why we're all uncomfortable. There's a lot of questions. Tommy McGee asked, what's the size of the project? We never got an answer what the project was, how many trees are going to be cut. We still don't have an answer. So why don't we just give it a little more time? Thank you.
I did have another question, and I don't know if you can answer this, or Mr. Mancini can answer it. In the overlay district, how many areas or how many acres in that overlay district can be actually used for solar array construction? I didn't know if there was like a
1% of the town, they said.
of that overlay district.
That's what I heard.
Well, because somebody had just said that there's another area past Greenville Road that can be done. Anyway, with these different solar array projects, if you accept the overlay project, they're not going to be the only construction contractors that can come to you with another, so we have like 4 or 5 different solar array contractors in town, and then it would go to you and then the planning board and not the zoning board for all these other projects in this overlay district. Is that what I'm hearing?
Within the overlay district.
Okay, so you could have green development, you could have WD, or all these other come to you with projects, go to the planning board, and then it skips the zoning board entirely with this overlay. Is that what I'm
Right,
hearing?
but the process, though, they don't get carte blanche to just do a project if it passed. They would have to still have the plan approved by the planning board,
Right.
and then the details would have to be approved by the council. So just because they're in the overlay district doesn't give somebody carte blanche to build a solar array.
Right, so it would still go to the planning board, but it would be, you wouldn't have any zoning
That's correct, right? Within the overlay district, within the overlay, yes.
within the overlay, so zoning would be definitely out of it, if you approve this.
If it was approved.
Okay, that's all right, thank you.
Anybody that already spoke?
clarify